Even should the sun stop in the sky, even should the night last 1,000 years, I will stand forever. I shall not yield. Those who suffer and yearn for justice, I am your sword and shield. I will yield no ground. I will speak no lies. I will stand against all tyrants until the last villain dies.
Hello, everyone. Jacob here. Just popping in to let y'all know that we didn't quite give the rundown of what the podcast is about in our first recording, so I'm here doing it now. So our podcast is all about me and my friend Will sort of talking RPGs and giving each other prompts for design. We then leave, giving ourselves a maximum of 3 hours to complete our individual projects before coming back and sharing each project to each other. I must say, this week's stuff is actually really cool. I'm really excited for y'all to see it and maybe even use it. Once again, if you ever want to see these things we make expanded into full products, put in the comments. We're always open for suggestions and such. Additionally, in the description, you will find all the links to the things we made, which you could follow along with us as we sort of talk about them. Now, see you all in the real recording. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Psychogenic Symposium. It's me, Jacob, and I'm here back with my incomprehensible co-host, Will. How are you doing, Will?
Confused about being called incomprehensible mostly.
Well, listen, I don't make the descriptor, I'm afraid, out of either.
Yeah, yeah.
But today, I'm very excited about today.
Yeah. Before we get
Um,
too into things, though, I have a topical icebreaker question for you. So I want to know, how did you first hear about Matthew Colville and or MCDM?
it's been a long time. I told the story before about me starting with PopCon. A little bit of a tangent. I started with High Rollers, which is a D&D podcast. Yeah, really good. They're currently on the third campaign. It's great. And then from there, because so I was always sort of in somewhat of the YouTube scene with D&D, so I wouldn't be surprised if I was aware of him before that. But I really got to know him a lot. With a certain point into high school, I decided to start running D&D, and I got really into it. And so I basically took all I know from Matt Colville and Mark Humes, the DM of High
High
Rollers.
rollers, yeah.
Probably my second year of high school, honestly, because I think the first year I was only in a campaign as a player. And then I was like, I want to do this myself because it looks really fun. Being one behind the screen and making cool stuff is just, and making stuff for my friends specifically, I always had a lot of fun doing.
That's fair, yeah.
That's kind of where I got to know him. And since then, I eventually got into his live streams and I'm really plugged into the MCM community. I'm on the Discord, I'm on the Blue Sky where people congregate. I watch basically all his streams mostly, so I'm really into him. How about you, Will? I know you're also somewhat of a fan of Matt.
I also started watching him sometime in high school. I don't remember what led me to him because I had been doing forays into DMing for a couple years at least before I learned about him. It's possible I learned about him from you, honestly, though I don't recall. And I'm much less of a community person than you are, both in the MCDM community and in general. I am technically in their Discord, but I think I joined their Discord expressly for the purposes of us being able to talk with people there and post things there in relation to our company. And I have it muted because I don't
Yeah.
want all the notifications from it. And I think I've only watched one Matthew Colville live stream, which is he streamed a watch party of oh, what is it called? And
1776.
1776, yes.
It's been exactly a year, actually, because
Yeah.
it's been did it on July 4th.
Yeah, which I also only watched that because I already loved 1776, so it was just an excuse for me to watch the movie. I think the only content I don't really interact with the MCDM YouTube content much at all. I watched basically all of no, I think I watched all of running the game. After that, I mean I watched the stuff he puts out on his personal channel if it catches my eye.
For me, Matt, I watched most of his live streams. The only ones I kind of don't watch are the Star Citizen ones because I'm just not interested.
That's fair.
He's done Sandbaggers, which has been a lot of fun recently. He's also recently done NetHack.
I'm interested in maybe doing NetHack, but I don't know.
It's fun. They have like a whole sort of server now, and I was on it the other day. It's cool. We don't want the first part to go too long. I'm always a big fan of idiosyncratic sort of things people love. These like very niche things.
Mhm.
Do you have any published, obscure, or idiosyncratic systems that you love or settings?
That's a great question. I am a fan of weird things. I'm a weird little guy. How mainstream does something have to be before it stops being idiosyncratic?
Something that you don't see talked about on the RPG, Reddit, or any other similar communities within the last like probably 10 years, I'd say. I don't know if that's a good benchmark, but something that's not like in the public consciousness that people probably, if you mention, probably won't know about.
My first answer is a little more known than that, but my first answer would probably be Exalted, which is
Yeah.
a wonderful, weird, Eastern-based, high to heroic fantasy game in which you punch gods. But if I'm going more idiosyncratic, Other Dust. There is a sister RPG to Stars Without Number. I mean, arguably there are a bunch. There's Worlds Without Number, there's Cities Without Number, etc. But Other Dust takes place around the same time as Stars Without Number, because one of the big plot conceits of Stars Without Number is humanity spreads out to the stars. A big thing that drives that are these massively powerful psychics who can do things like power warp gates that allow you to, instantaneously travel between two systems. And then at some point, there's a psionic scream that happens, and all of the psychics die or go insane. So everything falls apart, especially Earth. And Earth, it's this jewel of the galaxy. It's the capital of this huge interstellar empire. It's got all these fail safes, but one of the psychics who went crazy instead of dying is like the most powerful. I don't remember what they call the discipline, but it's interfacing with machines, using your psionic powers to interface with machines. So he turns all of these fail safes into weapons against the population, including there were nanites whose design was that they were essentially super steroid medical nanites that would be released into the atmosphere in an emergency to help heal people and keep them safe. And he's changed them so that they just randomly mutate people they come across.
Yeah.
So it might be good, it might be horrible. That's what the Other Dust is. It's these nanites, but it's all post-apocalyptic, so most people have no idea where this stuff came from, what happened, that there is an interstellar, the remnants of the interstellar empire out there slowly clawing their way back to space. And it's Fallout, kind of. And I don't know, I just fell in love with it. I absolutely love the idea, and I've never gotten to run a game for it.
I feel like Fallout has a monopoly on good, actually sort of well-used post-apocalyptic settings. I love Fallout. I think it's great. But that's really Other Dust sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Like a very cool sci-fi post-apocalyptic setting, which I'm always a fan of. Speaking of which, mine actually isn't too far off from yours, I don't think. It isn't too not known. I think it's in the current date is. But in its heyday, it was published by the biggest TTRPG creator ever.
I think I know.
Um,
I think I know which one you're gonna
I
go
think
for.
I've talked about this a lot with you because my dream at some point is to have us make some sort of spiritual, not sequel, but spiritual fan made sequel to
Yeah,
this or something.
a successor.
Yeah, Metamorphosis Alpha.
Yeah.
Which the concept of is just I can't get out of my head. It is so cool. For those unaware, it is a setting where similar to your thing, Will, humanity is like we can't live on Earth anymore. We have to leave. So, but instead of becoming a full empire, they send out this giant, basically arc, this singular large ship, this
Yeah,
colony ship that's like huge.
yeah, like a generation ship.
Yes, a generation ship. And the premise is it went through a radiation cloud, and everyone on the ship either died or mutated. And now people on the ship who are still sort of there or human or mutated don't realize they're still on a ship because the interior is very similar to like an Earth place. Like it's like some like large bio like locations.
Yeah,
And I think that concept is just so cool, right?
it is really cool.
It gives the vibes of the old D&D adventure Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, except as a whole setting.
Yeah, it does. I remember you ran a session or two of Metamorphosis Alpha with I think a pre-made adventure one time, and it was great fun. It was a little weird wrapping my head around the kind of old grognardy mechanics, which is saying something because I know that we might have some listeners who, when I say this, say that's not old and grognardy. But my favorite edition of D&D is second edition AD&D, which, from the modern perspective, that game is 40 plus years old. It's old and grognardy for the modern world.
The thing is, that's why I hate, right? Metamorphosis Alpha is such a cool system. And so there are multiple versions of it, but they aren't all great. And then that system evolved into Gamma World as a property.
Yes, it did.
Gamma World and Metamorphosis Alpha are not the same, nowhere near
No,
concept-wise.
their settings are very different.
And I think it loses a lot.
Yeah, one of my regular Sunday group, once a campaign ends, we'll usually kind of vote on what we want to play next. One of the games that has been up a few times and there's always been some interest, but not enough to win the day, has been Gamma World. And it sounds fun, don't get me wrong. I think it sounds very fun and interesting, but it is not Metamorphosis Alpha.
No. And I think it's like people are like, oh, it's basically the same thing, it's spiritual successor. But I think losing that ship loses so much of the charm for me. It really
Yeah.
does.
I think the generation ship being the setting is so important to the feel of Metamorphosis Alpha.
Additionally, if you don't know anything about Metamorphosis Alpha or Gamma World, check out Zig Menthotep, who does a lot of like, oh, making a character an X system, which they did both for Gamma World's many systems as well as Metamorphosis Alpha. Highly suggest it. Good overview. One of these days, I think really fun if we did an episode of this but for the original Metamorphosis Alpha system.
That would be fun.
It would be, wouldn't it?
Oh man, fucking charts galore.
No, we say it's Grog. Like, thing is, we say it's Grognar. It's not just standard like, oh, D&D Thaco. It has these weird charts.
It uses the classical to hit charts that Thaco was a simplification of. And every time I look at older game design like this, I'm struck with two thoughts. Because there's a reason second edition AD&D is my favorite, bar none, edition of D&D. I'm about to sound crazy. It's my favorite edition of D&D, and I do not play it.
Yeah.
Because I love the weird and complicated mechanics. I think they're hilarious and amazing. They are some of the worst things to play with ever. Like, second edition has this great, amazing, really cool, immersive rule for like different armors having percentage bonuses or penalties against different damage and weapon types. It's a really cool rule. And if you were playing like a video game where the computer could keep track of all that for you all the time and do the math for you on the fly, I think it'd be great. In a tabletop setting, it's just too much to keep track of. So, icebreaker questions out of the way, we're doing draw steel, right? So Jacob, why did we choose this system?
Because I love Draw Steel, and I've been following it since they announced it, and I'm tired of 5e,
That's
basically.
fair. You've definitely followed it more closely than me. I guess I've technically been following it since it was announced, but not really.
I've run intermittent one-shots, running adventures from the old like dungeon magazines from like the 4th edition era. And I was really excited to do this because I love Draw Steel. I think it's such a unique take upon this sort of style of setting. I really want to run it for Eberron, which I think would be really fun. Something I love about it, right, is the way it's not a game about resources diminishing, really. There's two vectors for it. Yeah, because there's the victories angle. Sort of for each encounter you have, you gain victories, which
Right.
makes it so for each encounter, you're more powerful and powerful when it comes to abilities. But you have a number of recoveries which start to go down, which is basically your HP pool.
Right, but the victories in a lot of ways give you more resources and make you hit harder. So you do have this
Exactly.
weird balancing act where you're both getting stronger as you go and accumulate more victories in a run, but you're also getting closer to not being able to keep going.
Exactly. It's really fun sort of fighting, like, hey, should we keep going and be able to hit them hard? But what did it take us out? Matt Cobill is doing some streams on his Twitch channel where he's a player in a Draw Steel game.
Oh.
And there's a player who hasn't rested between encounters. So everyone else is starting from 0, but they have like 9 victories.
Oh,
Which, and so this weird sort of like really interesting sort of, it shows how they can like do all this cool stuff per turn, right? Because they're an elementalist, so they're kind of not in the front line.
right. Yeah, having that many victories, I imagine, kind of allows them to go Nova every encounter because they just start with so
Basically.
much. I don't know what the elementalist resource is called.
Essence, Quintessence, something like that. I think. I
Yeah,
don't know. I played a lot of Talent,
played a Conduit and a Fury. I've
which
enjoyed the Conduit, but I found the Fury was deeply, viscerally satisfying for me.
so I ran Draw Steel for Will here, and there was a moment in that game which was so cool.
There were a few moments in that game I thought were really cool, so I don't know the specific one you're thinking of.
The one where you used your Dragon Knight ability with the oath.
Oh, yes. So I've got the book open. Let me scroll back to the Dragon Knight, because they have a couple really cool abilities. And if you're not familiar with Matthew Colville's take on Dragonborn and Dragon Knights, I think they're fun and interesting and worth looking into. So the Dragon Knights get one of the abilities they can take is called Remember Your Oath, because they were all in the base setting of Vesloria? Orden?
Yes.
They were all knights in service to the good king who is passed on due to malfeasance. And they have this wonderful oath. And mechanically, what it means is that you're like 20% more likely to make a saving throw on your turn, but you have to read it. So there was this great bit where my character had been like knocked down. He just had a bunch of status effects in this fight with some goblins, including a weird shaman. And so I was like, okay, on my turn, I stand up. I think I hit somebody, stood up, and then I recite the oath. And then it made the difference between me succeeding and failing a save. So it did exactly what it was supposed to do on that turn. So it was just this great cinematic moment where my character stands up and shakes off this like strange magical affliction and is like staring down this little goblin shaman who's like, oh shit.
Thing that I think made that moment amazing is for that whole fight, that shaman was like actively being malfeasant directly towards you. They were
Oh yeah.
like, you should have died with your king and stuff like
Oh
that. And it
yeah,
just made it so satisfying.
it was so satisfying. I also, Matt has a kind of, he said before it's not really an accent. I don't know if I 100% agree with that, but he's got a certain kind of pattern of speech he uses for his Dragon Knights, which I did that entire session, which actually made it really hard for me to read the oath because I was trying to concentrate on reading the oath and doing this voice, which if you give me a second, I can maybe try to do
Reenact
it.
it.
Even should the sun stop in the sky, even should the night last 1,000 years, I will stand forever. I shall not yield. Those who suffer and yearn for justice, I am your sword and shield. I will yield no ground. I will speak no lies. I will stand against all tyrants until the last villain dies.
It's great. I love this game.
It is, but try doing that like gravelly start and stop voice for a 4 hour session. I dare you.
Yeah.
It's I'm sure there are people who have better voice acting chops than I do who can probably do it, but oh man, it was rough. And the worst part is because if I played like a classic like big strong silent type knight, I don't think it would have been an issue. I barely would have talked. But I was playing a Fury, and for me, I can't play like a barbarian Fury type class as somebody who doesn't talk much. Part of the whole thing of being a Fury is kind of being ruled by your passions, right? So if he had something to say, he said it, which meant I had to say it.
But again, I think Josky is really fun to design for. Again, I've already done some design for it. As I said, 8 iconic items.
Hmm.
You haven't designed anything so far, Will, correct? No.
I've built characters. That's it.
So I guess we should talk about what we can design in Drawskill.
Yeah.
So it's a much longer list than it was, I think, in Monster of the Week, personally. Or at least a much more exciting list, in my opinion.
I mean, there's a lot of the classic ones. I mean, for any system, you're going to be able to design stories, adventures, etc. Maybe, what are some of the draw steel specific areas of design that you think are exciting?
Something really exciting about Drawskill are titles, which I also describe as achievements.
I read through the last time they put out a playtest doc. I did read through the titles section there a little bit, but I'm not super familiar with them. What are titles?
So titles are, again, they are conditional, basically feats from 5e,
Okay.
where if you do a certain thing in the game, your DM may say, "Oh, you now can get this if you want it," and it has various effects. A lot of times it's like, "Oh, here's 3 effects, choose one."
Okay.
Right? To give an idea, I can give a few examples. An example, and again, very achievement-like, which kind of I think is very interesting. I've never seen achievements put into a D&D game.
They remind me a bit of, I don't know if you've ever played Warhammer, Total War Warhammer 3. It might have been in 2 as well, I don't
No.
remember. Well, they have a whole bunch of modifiers you can get from like defeating specific people in battle. And it reminds me a bit of that of like, oh, you did this thing, here's a bonus you get. And it comes with a title like Dwarf Slayer, things like that.
Yeah. An example: presumed dead, with prerequisite being you die in a way that prevents your body from being recovered or examined. And basically, you take this title and you can come back.
That's a fun one. That's a really fun one.
Yeah,
I am usually a fan. Not necessarily always, but I am usually a fan of if you didn't see a body, they're not dead as a trope.
exactly. Also, troop tactics. Prerequisite is the party has successfully performed as a troupe of actors, circus performers, or other entertainers. I
Oh,
think it's really
okay.
funny. And one more: a fae friend. Prerequisite: you eat and drink with an elf, monarch, or archfey.
Okay, that's fun.
Again, these are really moldable and can really have some really funny. They're cool. I think this is really interesting design.
That is fun. There's also, I think, a really fun and interesting area is the leveled items, which are
Yes.
which are kind of these magic items that grow with you.
Yeah, I'm working on one recently, a Vorpal sword.
Yeah,
It's been really fun.
often a problem in games like D&D that might be realistic, but is kind of runs counter to the fantasy for a lot of people, is this idea of like, oh, I have this, really special weapon, but then we kill a dragon and we're looting its hoard, and there's just a better weapon for me. And now I'm
Yeah,
getting rid of maybe this weapon I've had for 5 levels, maybe it has some sort of story significance. So I'm left with the option be less effective or abandon story for this shiny new weapon. So having these items that get better as you get better helps to mitigate that issue, which, like I said, probably not an issue for everyone. I know I personally have never, when I'm playing 3.5 or Pathfinder or whatever, I never have an issue throwing away my old +1 sword to get like a +3 ghost touch sword. I'm like, yeah, fuck that +1 vendor trash. I don't care. Uh,
again, I think it's the change, right? The RPGs have become more of a cinematic and more emotionally sort of tying
yeah.
to you, I guess, because like now, like it's like, oh, it's my character, special to me, and these items are very personal to me. Like I was playing in the 5e game, my like 4-year, 5-year game, which basically just ended. And throughout the whole game, I had defender, the sword defender,
Oh,
and it
that's
was
fun.
vital for my vision of my character. And
Yeah,
if it was weaker, like I would not never give up that sword. Even if I found something more powerful, I would never give up with it.
that's
The
fair.
thing is, that's a very different mindset to have compared to like how I think it used to be, at least for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I'll be honest, the last Pathfinder first edition campaign I played in, which was a hack of Pathfinder first edition to make it Spelljammer, which was really fun. One of my main characters, I just kept upgrading my swords. I was just like, yeah, oh, better sword, great, done.
yeah. Additionally, I think the last thing to know about items specifically, because there's also like other types of items, right? There's standard trinkets and there's also consumables. Every magic item in this book has item prerequisites as well as rules how to create that item.
They call them projects, right? For their like
Yep.
crafting and other kind of downtime system.
Yeah, and I like how creative they could be.
Ooh, I like this displacer battle axe item prerequisite. An ancient bronze gear covered in indecipherable runes. Uh, if you have a gear with indecipherable runes, and while you're working on this axe, you realize what they say, does it no longer work? Do I have to go find a new gear?
That's great.
I think it'd be really funny to have that in like a maybe a little bit more of a comedic toned campaign for a setback for your project. Is like, oh yeah, you're really close to completing it, and then you have an epiphany about what the runes say. You're gonna need a new gear. Ah shit.
Yeah, that's great. I kind of almost imagine like the mystery itself being part of the power, but yeah, it's cool. This was something else I think is really, really keen for design, which I think we didn't talk about at all prior to this episode, is complications.
Oh yeah. I did see that when I was scrolling through the book. I haven't looked at them.
Really, they are basically downsides and upsides you choose for your character before you can start.
Yeah, I remember those. I could probably find what my character had if I remembered what the draw steel.
It was when I gave you an oath, and it gave you extra stability based on an oath.
That sounds right.
Examples of various complications. There's a fallen immortal. Your character can literally be an immortal that has fallen. Forbidden romance.
Oh, I can be Romeo or Juliet. I now really like the idea. I hadn't heard about the Forbidden Romance one. I really like the idea of having a party where two of the people are are Romeo and Juliet and they have run away.
You're in love with someone, but tragic circumstances keep you apart. Perhaps your lover is from a feuding family, betrothed to another, or has some sort of other animosity towards you. Yeah, listen, they're so cool. Listen, I'm hyping up Draw Steel because I legitimately think is a cool system. I do.
Yep.
I think it's just. I'm really excited for its full release, which is again in like 14 days, I think.
Yeah, 2 weeks, give or take.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. Last thing I want to talk, or at least last thing I want to talk about beyond like classes which are pretty basic, is I've never felt connected to fighting style when it came to D&D. Never.
Mhm.
Like it's always felt like an afterthought. Weapons all feel the same. Draw still fixes that in a weird way.
Yeah, they did. They took an interesting tact. I assume you're talking about the kits.
Yep.
Yeah, so instead of a la carte menu of different weapons and armors that you mix and match, they've got pre-built sets of equipment that give you signature abilities and specific bonuses to help kind of play into the fantasy of playing a certain style.
One of the things that I was sad about to see is casters used to have kits themselves, but they don't anymore. That's one of my few gripes. That and how the wealth system works
That's fair.
is I think casters have some form of kits. They do I guess now, but not as flavorful. But I think his kits are really cool. They're these like sort of fantasies of weapons, and I was really inspired to make kits by there's this person in the MCM community. They made a gunslinger Calas, and it's
Okay.
really good. Can't wait to see its full release. I love it. I'll probably even link it below for people who are interested. They have a number of gunslinger kits for anyone to take.
Oh, okay.
Like it's like tons of these little kits, like each have a different fantasy of like the gunslinger, and it's rad. Also, I don't know if you saw this. There's a really good photo. I'll share it to you now, and I'll probably post it as well below in our show notes. And there's this really fun fan art that was released recently that shows one fighter and then like all the kits for that fighter.
Oh, I
And
did
like
see
how
that.
you saw that? It shows
Yes.
like how just this one choice can make such unique characters from even one single class.
Right.
Will, I think we could talk about this for another hour if we wanted to, legitimately.
Yes.
Yeah, to prompts we go.
So, I believe you're gonna start us off this time. What do you got for me?
I am. So in thinking in what to do. We both are interested in a lot of the same things, as you know. Be it RPGs, be it sometimes shows, and be it music. And recently, we've really loved listening to a certain concept album, an epic musical.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask you to do something based off of a Greek epic or myth. So
Greek
epic /
epic
myth.
/ myth. I can do something with that. That's Okay.
What's your initial thoughts without telling me what you want to make?
My first thought is there's a lot of items you could do.
Yeah.
Right? Greek myth is filled with items. You've got like winged sandals, you've got the Aegis, you could do like a Gorgon's head would be a good item. Thunderbolts, all sorts of fun things.
I think titles, a lot of really cool titles you can make.
Yeah, cool titles.
Monsters.
Some
Even
fun
encounter design, you
monsters.
could remake encounters from the Odyssey or something.
You could also, I could see making like an adventure or an adventure outline that's like the 12 labors. That'd be interesting. So yeah, I think there's lots of interesting things there. I'm gonna have to really decide which epics and myths most interest me.
Yeah. Okay. How about I've given you mine. It seems you like it. It seems, as you can probably tell, I like really broad ones that kind of give you a lot of like almost like genre-esque ones. That give you like good themes.
Right.
What's your one? I'm really curious.
Well, I'm not going to pigeonhole you into making an adventure this time. Your prompt is The Last Light of a Dying God.
Dying God. I like that one. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, I was really proud of that one. I've tried that one. I tried to theme all of my prompts to kind of go with the system. So when I was thinking of a prompt for Draw Steel, I was thinking, okay, Draw Steel, big heroic fantasy. I was like, it's got to be something big. I don't know why I went with Last Light of a Dying God specifically, but it seemed appropriately big to me.
Feels very dramatic.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I think that's like, again, I like how open it is. I could do a lot with that if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Oh, I am
Any
thinking about that.
any first thoughts?
I like how the last light of a dying god. It's almost the theming of it's interesting.
Mhm.
It's a theme that has internal tension in it, with the sort of death of a light in some way, and like has this interesting sort of a morality thing going on with it, kinda. It's really cool. I don't really have much beyond that. I'm really curious to just put my mind to it and start thinking really hard what I can come up with.
Yeah.
So, Will, that is the first part of our second episode filmed. We will, I guess, see you all in part 2 of this episode.
Yeah.
See y'all then.
All right. Welcome back. We have gone away and returned, hopefully with some fun little nuggets for all of you listening.
And this time, it didn't take more than a month to record.
It did not. In fact, I believe we are almost exactly a week from last time, so we're killing it.
Yeah, I'm very happy with what I got done. I think I had less time to think about what I'm doing, so I definitely think I got less writing done overall, but I'm still very happy with what I came out with.
I like doing this design work a little better because there's more hard mechanical, mathematical things I can do.
More crunch.
Yeah, I don't know. There's more numbers for me to play with than my last design, so that was a lot easier. I guess speaking of design, I guess I should talk about what I made, huh?
Yes, and to remind the audience listening, the prompt was Greek myth slash epic.
So I have made three things.
3 things.
Yeah, three little things instead of one big thing. So yeah, I have made a first echelon consumable, a leveled treasure, and a title. So I'll start off the top with the epic themed one I did, which is the Essence of Molly. So it's a first echelon consumable. Keywords, magic and potion. Item prerequisites, the root from a poisonous flower that only grows on Aya or something, which is mythologically the isle that Circe inhabits. And the effects are until the end of your next respite, any save ends effects from sources that have the magic or psionic keyword end on a 5 or higher. And additionally, when you resist any attempts to intimidate or persuade, you gain 1 boon.
Okay, so it kind of matches similar to the Dragonborn ability, correct?
Yeah, I did. I took some inspiration from their oath. I mean, classically in the myth, the Molly is what lets him avoid the effects of Circe's sorceries. And then I wanted to hit on, with the intimidation or persuasion boon, to resist those. I wanted to hit on one of the big differences in Epic the Musical from the traditional mythology is that he isn't seduced by Circe. Like he resists her seduction. So I thought as a fun nod to that, some ability to resist being, having your emotions influenced in a mundane way was fun.
Yeah, I that's really cool. I like it because
I
it's very Greek inspired, but also you can just put it in any game.
Yeah, that was my hope. I did not realize until I was making this item that NPCs don't really roll much in Draw Steel. That aside from like a couple cases, usually you just have the heroes roll. Because originally my first pass of this item gave a bane to people trying to intimidate or persuade you, and then I was reading through it and I was like, oh, that's not really a thing that you do. So I had to switch it over to a boon, which I think mathematically works the same.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I didn't have any issue with that. I think that's how a lot of abilities work.
Next thing I made, and this one I had a lot of fun. I made Aegis, which I know in the modern parlance, Aegis has kind of taken on a less literal interpretation, but the classical Greek myth, Aegis is a shield or maybe a skin that Zeus and Athena wield. And as a shield, it's traditionally depicted as having a depiction of Medusa's head on it. Keywords for Aegis, it's a leveled treasure. The keywords are obviously magic and shield. Item prerequisites, bronze never touched by mortal hands, which I thought was really fun, and the head of a Medusa. Sources, text or lore in Kalian, which I think is what I did for. Yeah, I did for both of them, just because I know that's kind of the Roman Empire analog-ish. I think I don't know. So I thought that fit. Characteristics: reason, intuition, or presence. Reason or intuition, I think, are pretty ubiquitous for making items, and then presence felt thematic for what the shield does.
So I've done a few magic item design, right? I'm making 8 iconic items. And so trying to figure out what attributes work best for what item, it's very often weird. Could you have to imagine how it's used to make something?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really think about how you use presence. I just saw that some other items that had similar effects that I was going for used presence as one of the options, and I said, okay, great, toss presence in there because I think it makes sense for what the shield does.
I almost imagine in this instance it would be like being able like to not dominate, but like to intimidate the head itself, the spirit Lusa itself, like to somehow reside in the shield or something cool like that.
Yeah, that's fun. So, leveled treasures give increasing bonuses based on kind of what level you are. So at first level, while you wield or carry this shield, you gain a boon on any attempts to intimidate others and to resist being intimidated by others. Additionally, you may use a maneuver to cause the Medusa's head on the shield to writhe, choosing one adjacent creature and making them frightened until end of turn. At 5th level, you gain, instead of one boon to intimidate, you gain 2 boons on attempts to intimidate others. And when you make the shield's head writhe, you can choose a creature within 3 squares, so instead of them being adjacent, and that makes them frightened until end of turn. And at 9th level, you gain 2 boons both to intimidate others and to resist intimidation. And when you make the shield's head writhe, you may choose a creature within 5 squares and make them frightened. And instead of end of turn, it's now save ends.
I've learned save ends is nasty in this system.
hmm Yeah, that's why I tried to keep it for the later bits, because I was like, I did think about making it save ends at first, and then I was like, that's kind of nasty. Especially frightened is a nasty condition to give someone.
Especially if you do it at range, like with 3 squares, because they can't move near you, right? If you're right next to them, it's one thing, but if it's like from like 3 away, like do not come closer, sort of thing, it's I can imagine it being really sort of cinematic and rad. I had one more comment. I noticed for the Aegis how you put 2 boons to not be intimidated. Is there a reason you didn't just say you cannot be intimidated?
I don't know. I didn't really think about just a blanket you can't be intimidated.
Fair enough.
I don't dislike that for a 9th level thing. I feel like that's fun and cinematic. While you have the shield, you can't be intimidated.
I always like absolutes like that because it makes your character feel really, really special.
That's fair.
Because it's like they try to intimidate you, but it's like no.
Yeah. I guess part of the reason I didn't do that is I'm not super familiar with draw steel, so I wasn't sure how much of that appears in the system. So I erred on the side of a simple straight mechanical, straight numerical, I should say. So I think if I was a little more familiar with the system, I might have felt more comfortable just going for an absolute immune to intimidation.
It's also super interesting. That's no save, no potency. It just happens.
Yeah, I based it partially on it's like the Lion's Roar shield or something. King's Roar, that's what it's called, which is similar. I don't think it frightens. I think it like pushes people back or something. Obviously, I didn't pull it exactly, but I did. That was kind of my yardstick for is this too much? Do I need to give it some sort of role, something like that? So the last thing I made is a title, a second echelon title. I don't love the name of it. I had a lot of trouble figuring out a name, which is kind of important for a title, but it is whatever. So for now, it's named Stone Slayer because the prerequisite is to have killed a Medusa or similar leader or solo creature that petrifies its victims. And you get one of the following: either hardened by battle, you save ends effects that slow or restrain you on a 4 or higher. So I know I've done that twice, making it easier to resist save ends effects, and I know that's pretty strong. I thought this one was interesting because it's constrained to only the slow or restrained conditions. So that gives it a fun, like, specific mechanical thing. And I felt, it's thematic for, you're like resistant to petrification and things like that.
I haven't seen that. I really like that.
Hero of Legend, you earn 1 renown. I saw a couple second echelon titles that had something similar, where it's just you get 1 renown, and I was like, that's fun, and I think it fits because Perseus, who slayed Medusa, was he's like the main hero before Heracles comes along and does his labors and all of that. So, and lastly, I went Go for the Head, which gives you the eponymous ability that you can spend your class resource on. It costs 7 heroic resource. It's a melee strike weapon. It's a main action. Targets 1 creature in melee 1. You roll might or agility. On 11 or lower, you do 9 damage, and the creature is dazed to end of turn. 12 to 16 is 11 damage, dazed to end of turn, and 17 plus does 16 damage, dazed till end of turn.
I can't hear that without thinking of Marvel. But also, I love this. It really makes me want to play a Perseus-esque character.
Yeah. I don't know why 2 of the things I thought of were Medusa related, but it does, yeah, it leaves a lot of room for you to play like into that archetype. I thought about, and then I realized they probably already have a Medusa or similar monster, because I did think about doing a leveled treasure, a title, and then a monster to go with them. And then I was like, I bet they have a Medusa.
Yeah, the fun part is, so I ran a 5e campaign that is now going into Draw Steel, and in that 5e campaign, they killed a Medusa. I really wish this was in the game. I may give it as an option, right? Because it's also very sort of very cool. I really like it.
Yeah, I love titles. As a space for design, they're really fun. One, I love the kind of multiple choice thing, right? Where 2 people can have the same title, but get different benefits, which is an intentional design thing to allow, like, your whole party could get this title. Each member of the party might have a different thing. And I don't know, it's really satisfying narratively to me to have a mechanical reward associated with these big, important story things that you can do. One of my favorites is you become a knight.
Again, what I love about them is they added achievements in the Draw Steel, basically, with mechanical underpinnings, which is literally genius.
Yeah, it is. It's really good.
Yours makes me want to be like play a hero whose goal is to kill 3 Medusa.
Yeah.
Become the ultimate Medusa Slayer or something like that. I don't know. It's cool. I'm a big fan. Cool. I have a few questions for you.
Yeah, go for it.
Has your thoughts about Draw Steel as a system or mechanically changed at all in actually designing something for it?
I don't know if they've changed. I've always been very interested in the design behind Draw Steel. I'm definitely more familiar with the actual things they've done, which part of that was doing design work, and the other part of that is having a closer to completion copy of the game to look at. I don't know if my thoughts have changed so much as my appreciation for what the designers are doing and how they're doing it has deepened. There are lots of, I will be 100% honest with you. There are lots of design decisions in Draw Steel that I am not a fan of. Most of them come down to, I think the designers of Draw Steel and I have very different concepts of what kinds of things a heroic fantasy world should include as like a baseline. I personally would not include the Time Raiders or Memenek in my fantasy worlds. They just wouldn't be a thing. Uh, which I think is I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with having them in a fantasy world. It's just not my thing.
We touched upon, I think, in the first part, I think it's still in there, that you're not a fan of mixing your peanut butter and chocolate.
Yeah, I'm not a huge sci-fi and Tolkien fantasy being mixed together. I should probably be more specific about that. I don't like a predominantly fantasy world that has a few sci-fi elements.
I don't like sci-fi elephants too, don't worry.
Yeah. I'm actually much more interested in the other way around. Like something like Shadowrun or Starfinder, which is primarily a science fiction world that has some magic. Those are much more interesting to me. And I find the whiplash I get much lower. Like, my least favorite thing from Pathfinder ever is Numeria, which is just there's like an alien spaceship that crashed, and so this one nation has super tech, and I just hate it. Every time I never use them in my Pathfinder games. Every time they come up in a Pathfinder game I'm in, I don't literally, but I kind of mentally roll my eyes about them. I just don't like them. I know it's really popular, so I'm the odd man out here, but yeah.
Well, a lot of timestamp here for whenever I get to my prompt, and then I'll show you what I did.
Okay.
Um, but I no, I think I agree. I think something they could have done with Draw Steel is make the line more apparent. Because the thing they talked about a lot is how the Memenek, while the Memenek and the Time Eater are in the game, they're not. There's like maybe like a few dozen or maybe a dozen on Orden on the world.
Right.
I think they could have very easily placed better restrictions, like being like, hey, these are very separate from these guys. They exist, but only if you want to play this type of campaign, or maybe like a small sort of sub thing. But I think putting them with the other like Devils and Hakan is weird.
That's fair.
As someone who likes that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's complicated for me because I like things like Spelljammer, which I know a lot of people might be like, well, that's kind of putting sci-fi in your fantasy, and I just don't feel that way about it, I guess, because all of the ships are clearly like magically propelled ships. It's all working off of like weird ideas of metaphysics, like the phlogiston and all of that. So it just doesn't feel sci-fi to me. I know it ends up in a very similar place, but
I think I'm similar, but specifically with like I see a lot of times people like mix Dieselpunk with fantasy, and I'm not a fan of that for some reason.
that's fair. I think the big thing is, as I kind of touched on earlier, is the core of the world technological or magical? If the core of the world is magical, I want the world to be basically just magical. If the core of the world is technological, for whatever reason, I'm okay with a little bit of magic being in there. hmm
Final question: how would you expand upon this?
If I was going to expand upon this, I think I would want to make more items and titles that are like Greek themed. Like if I was going to expand, I think I would try to make an entire like short like 15 to 20 page books of like, hey, if you want to do kind of like a Greek myth and legend theme campaign in Draw Steel, here are some thematic items and titles that will really help you. I think that's if I was going to expand upon it, yeah, I think my main thing would just more so that you have more to grab onto. I'd probably change the ninth level Aegis thing to just you're just immune to intimidation instead of resisting it. I think that's a good idea.
I've seen like someone on YouTube when it first came out did a Draw Steel like Greek myth themed actual play thing. I remember.
Yeah, that's fun.
So it's definitely something that's not unwanted, right? I think there's definitely an audience there.
Yeah, I've always been really interested in doing like Bronze Age heroic fantasy. And I know there's what is it, Rune Quest, I think is the biggest one for Bronze Age fantasy, but I've never played Rune Quest, and what I've heard about Rune Quest makes me hesitant to play it because I feel like it's just not gonna be my thing. I know it's like it's a T100 system. I've heard it's like very deadly, and I'm like, I don't want to play like a Bronze Age militiaman fighting in the Peloponnesian War. I want to play Perseus or Heracles or one of these other, you know, larger than life characters.
I do think Dross would work well for that. I think it's very heroic in that form, unless you disagree.
No, I do think Drostiel would be really good for it.
So, do you have any other last comments upon your sort of work, or are you gonna let it speak for itself?
No, I think it can speak for itself. I usually let them, which I think brings us to your work. And to remind the folks at home and ourselves, your prompt was The Last Light of a Dying God.
Which I started with, and quickly I kinda went a weird direction, and you'll see. So to give some thoughts, at first I started with the idea of a dying god. That's easy, right? I was like, I didn't want to do it as a standard god. I want to do a parody or sort of a kickoff from I Have No Mouth, I Must Scream, because Am is a god, not a god, but like a god from the machine, like an actual machine god. And so what I made is the Steward of Man lives. Not an adventure. It sounds like an adventure. It's not.
Okay.
At first, I was writing some lore for it, and I was like, this isn't designed, really. I couldn't finish an adventure, I didn't think. And so, along with the lore, I decided to make an ancestry
That's fun.
called the Children of the Steward,
Oh, okay.
which I'm afraid to say are basically just cyborgs. I made a cyborg ancestry.
Yeah, no, I figured.
So the lore, I put my inspirations in the actual document, which you can see below. There was someone who made a post forever ago on a Drawsteel homebrew community, and they made their own sort of interpretation of Corsair, which is like the desert sort of Egyptian sort of place. And in their thing, they oftenly mentioned how Memenek and Time Raiders had a forgotten history. And so I wanted to expand upon that, like, because it's like Memenek have no bearing on Orden, which is okay. I was like, how do I make them have at least some history with there? So I decided, long before Unisol, which is like their sort of organization, happened, the proto version of that came to Orden, basically gave them technology, basically ancient aliens was the kind of the base idea.
Mm-hmm.
They came down, helped these people, then they had to leave, do this like Protean war, and they left, but they left behind a steward of humankind, a robot sort of thing. But then there was revolution. It was nearly destroyed, but then a few people stayed by and protected it. So now, in a hole in the middle of the infinite desert, is a cavern, caverns upon caverns of just this computer that's expanded and expanded and is still alive, but is dying. And it's ran off of something called Iridos, but it's running out of it. And so the whole idea is these people, these augmented people down below who've been gifted basically Eden, let's leave and bring back Iridos to this dying god. I was very happy with it. I think it's cool. I like sci-fi in my fantasy. Some other inspirations were Portal, The Desolate Hope, Metamorphosis Alpha, very much so. At first I thought these guys were like, were more civil, like technologically basic, but were gifted these things, but I was like, no, that's not that's exciting. If I was running a full adventure here, I maybe would do that, because that's more fun. But I like the idea of these sort of cyborgs that come out of the desert and no one knows where they're from. I wrote a whole thing here, you could read it, but down below.
Yeah, tell me about these children of the steward.
I will read what I wrote here. The Children of the Steward are a village of post-mortals, having been rewarded in their loyalty and now be able to live forever. While biologically human, they have been gifted with a plethora of psionic implants throughout their long lifetime, giving them capabilities impossible for a mortal man. With the slow death of their god, some have ventured into the surface from their decaying subterranean world in the quest for Iridos, the lifeblood of their deity. And I had a lot of fun making up their traits, because there's some wild ones there. Insane ones. I don't know if you looked at it, Will, yet.
I was starting to look over it when I asked you about them. Yeah.
Their signature trait is augmented mind. Your brain is augmented to withstand psionic strain. Your choice of a reason or intuition counts as one higher for resisting potencies. Additionally, when touching a psionic item, you instantly know what it does and become able to use it.
Oh, that's fun.
Then, sort of the purchasable abilities get more exciting, I think. Memories of an immortal. Due to psionic thought banks, your past isn't wholly unknown to you, unlike most of your brethren who remember almost nothing. You are aware of a still intact hidden location of progenitor Memenek technology. Director's choice. Additionally, you have an edge on all tests made to recall lore, and you can eternally replay anything you've seen in the last 24 hours as if you were recording. I like the idea of adding plot hooks in the traits themselves. So if you take this, you just know a location of a stash of Mnemonic technology, which I think is pretty rad. Going from there, the steward will never leave you, which is 2 points. You uniquely have a direct line to your steward, having been rewarded after a great deed. Once per respite, where you convert victories to experience, you may ask the steward any question, and it will answer. Its answer may take the form of a complex formula, jargon, or other cryptic nature, determined by the director. If it does not know the answer, the steward will instead give you advice or a lead on how to find the answer. If the steward dies, you may choose to link it yourself to any other database.
I really like that one. It's somewhat reminiscent of older D&D's divination, which I've always been a fan of, so I like that quite a bit.
It is, yeah. In design, right, a lot of things are like during a respite. But when it's something like that, that's more limited. Like, you shouldn't be able to like take a week respite and ask 7 questions.
Right.
I said, when you gain a victory and you rest, is how he did it, which I think works.
That's fun. Yeah. I think so, yeah.
And also, I think it's really fun, right? And like, if it dies, you could instead plug it into like some other database you find, right?
It is really fun.
I imagine a really fun character who somehow breaks into the Unisol headquarters and secretly unplugs their thing into like the main database there, and is like just
And they plug in their little USB and
yeah, exactly. Next is mental interceptors. You could sense and intercept the mental exertions of others. You automatically detect any use of psionics within 15 squares. You can eavesdrop on telepathic conversations and may choose to interject or respond as part of the exchange. Additionally, you have an edge on detecting hidden living creatures. By using a maneuver, you could determine the number of living minds within 15 squares of you. So again, I almost imagine it's very subterfuge ancestry, right? It gave it a bit more extension, right? I don't like flat abilities that give just like flat stuff.
I like it. That's a fun one. Yeah, Mental Interceptor I really like. I'm a fan of like weird psychic stuff. So having like a trait that lets you like eavesdrop on telepathy and like interject is really fun.
Mental shielding. Yeah. On top of your existing augmented resistance, you have an added layer of protection against psionics, granted you psionic immunity equal to your level. Additionally, as a triggered action, when you take psionic damage, you can force a feedback loop, dealing psionic damage equal to your level to the creature who damaged you.
That's really fun.
I know, right? I think it's really rad. Like, you try to damage me, I'm gonna feedback loop you.
Can imagine taking Mental Interceptor and Mental Shielding and building like a Scion Hunter cyborg as a character.
I imagine out of any of the other ancestries, this one's like super expandable,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I also imagine uniquely, I didn't put it here, but I imagine they could actually get new traits through adventuring. I don't know how that would work mechanics wise. I'd have to make a whole like psionic psionic augmentation system.
But that could be fun.
I'd probably add something similar to like how Cyberpunk does like their overburn or whatever it's called.
I'm not familiar with Cyberpunk.
Yeah, they have like a thing like if you have too many, you can go like crazy or something. I don't know how that would work.
Oh yes, going Cyber Psycho, yeah.
Cyber Psycho, yeah. This one my favorite out of all of them. And I gave it 1 point because it's I don't know I like it. I was like let me give it more access because it doesn't do much mechanically at first. Okay, digital backup.
Yeah, I just read that one.
You have a constantly updating backup of your personality, an added level of immortality. This version of you isn't exactly you. They have your memories and are designed to continue where you left off, but are fully capable of deviating from who you yourself are, and may be uploaded to any body or corpse during a respite, fully taking over as a primary consciousness. The personality also may be uploaded into any psionically sufficient database. The backup may be created while the other is still alive, although the backup's memories deviate the moment it's activated. You lose all your current traits and instead gain the traits of your new body.
That's really fun.
Isn't it? I almost imagine a world where you somehow manage to like there's a big bad. Like someone takes on Ajax and plugs in their data chip into Ajax.
Ooh,
I think it'd be really funny.
that would be funny.
It would be, yeah. Imagine that. Imagine just taking over Ajax, and I think I'm very happy with this. I think it's not just an ancestry; it's an ancestry with some really creative stuff.
Right, and it's got a lot of interesting story hooks with being related to the Steward of Man.
Lastly, they have retained humanity, which are basically you could choose human traits if you want to.
Yeah, that's fun. Gives them a little more versatility.
I'm very happy with this. I don't know how this came out of your prompt, but it did.
Hey, you've got a dying god,
I do.
or at least close enough. So, if you were going to expand this, what do you think you would add to it?
I started actually making kits.
Oh,
I started with a mantis kit where like you could have like mantis sort of things, but I was like, what I'm making is basically just the two-handed kit.
that's fair.
But I really want, for example, I want a kit where you could have like a laser eye or something. I don't know how that would like work,
Ooh, that's fun.
but having more backup for these characters that are like have these like implants. I want to add. I would love to add a implant system. Like, what if another character wants to have implants, and how does this character gain more implants?
Hmm.
And maybe add some sort of downside because I think currently they seem a bit strong. What's your opinion on this? Do they seem strong?
I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I'm not familiar with any of the races outside of the Dragon Knights, really. The digital backup seems really strong, but I'm not familiar with how easy resurrection is in Draw Steel as a general rule.
A third level conduit can do it.
Levels only go up to 9 or 10 though, right?
Additionally, Hakan have a similar ability,
Okay.
and I don't think it's too big. I think a lot of SSGs have that. And again, it's not just you come back. There's an added level of story hook there.
Right, and there's potential complications, right? You lose all your current traits and gain the traits of your new body, so I don't know. I like them quite a bit. I love Memories of an Immortal. Reminds me a lot of the ability that 5e gave I think the Astral Elves.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I didn't like that. I thought it was so mechanically dull.
Really?
Wasn't it like just they just have like a extra proficiency or something?
I thought it was a proficiency they could switch out on a long rest.
That's still very dull, isn't it? I like having stuff that feels mechanically cool. If that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong in that.
I loved Astral Elf. I thought the Astral Elf was a real. Well, I didn't love Astral Elf. I actually disliked most of that book, weirdly. But I really liked the being able to switch out a skill proficiency. I thought it was very thematic.
I guess so. I think so many 5e things feel so samey. I think it may just be I'm burned on 5e,
That's fair.
but I can see it. I think narrative wise it's very similar.
Yeah, mostly the edge on all tests to recall lore and being called Memories of an Immortal just makes me think of that a lot.
I think about, yeah, if I were to expand this, I think I wouldn't base it off the cyborg. It'd be like a, hey, here's the cybernetic expansion.
That's fair. It's a good idea.
Again, I think I could literally put this cyborg out now. I just, well, which I am doing here, but as like a finished thing, it wouldn't be that hard.
Yes. Hmm.
Be like, oh, here's a cyborg. This is all you get, right? It'd be a small thing, but it'd be a thing.
Nice. Yeah. Have your thoughts about Draw Steel or its design changed any with the work you did?
I've already been somewhat into the design scene of Draw Steel. I think since now I felt very confined by the mechanics, which is easy to do when you start first getting into design, feeling like you can't really make any deviations. But I think here I made some big leaps that I think are both mechanically mostly fitting, but also very, very narrative in a way I really, really like.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think going for an ancestry is a really
Education.
big task for Draw Steel. Just having to come up with these purchased traits, figuring out balancing how much they cost with the benefits they give, and also trying to make them interesting is definitely it's a big design kind of hurdle. I think the only thing that is bigger would be if you had made a custom class.
I think entities are easier to balance in a way, where you can make one ability, one ability, one ability, and I didn't have much issue. I don't think. I think the major thing is I didn't really do much balancing when it came to the point system. Like digital backup's pretty strong, but I wanted to give it 1 point so it wouldn't be like, I don't know. I think it's just really fun to have, and I was like make it more accessible, but that may be the bad way to look about it.
That's fair. I wonder, you said the Hakan have a similar ability?
They do, I think. They're a Doom site, but I argue it's less messy than the actual sort of backup of a personality.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think comparing it to Doomsight, I definitely think the backup is a not as strong. So yeah, I think 1 point is reasonable.
I'm very happy with this, which is a good sign. I'm happy with both my things I made so far. I wish I got to do more with this, but which may just mean it needs to be expanded. But again, everyone, if you want to see this stuff expanded, down below, please let us know. We'll be happy to.
Yeah, we will. I would love to sit down and make just a short little booklet of Greek themed uh treasures and titles and such.
So, Will, what are we doing next time?
Well, next time we will be working on Chronicles of Darkness. And for those listeners at home, this is Chronicles of Darkness, not World of Darkness. So, this is a system I'm very excited about because I have lots of experience with both World and Chronicles of Darkness. It's one of my favorite game systems, and I think you've played it twice?
I've ran it, I think, like twice, and I played it twice? I guess so. Also, down below, you'll find our links to our Blue Sky, Discord, blog, and our email. And remember, if you email us at our email below, we will read it on a podcast.
Yep, and additionally, my offer to fistfight anyone who comes to my door still stands. So, come on. Yeah, yeah, always open. If you can find where I live, I will happily beat you up.
I think that's a continuous offer. We left the clues, and now it's for your time to follow them. See you all next time.